We are at the top of 49A1, Mem Testament Aleph. We have a long Amud, some Agadata. Here we go. So, Arba Shechal Lios B'Shabbos. Okay, if the 14th of Nisan, meaning Erev Pesach, falls out on Shabbos, so the question over here is going to be about what do you do about getting rid of chametz? So, Mevarnas Akol Lefnei Shabbos. Divrei Meir. Meir says you have to get rid of all the chametz before Shabbos. He seems to hold that it is forbidden. He seems to hold that the only way to dispose of chametz is by burning. That's at least how some of the Rishonim understand this. And since on Shabbos you won't be able to burn any chametz, right? How would you burn chametz on Shabbos? Therefore, he holds you have to get rid of all the chametz before Shabbos, before Erev Pesach. Okay, he would hold, according to some, that you would not be able to eat bread, even the little bit of the 2 rolls or 4 rolls or 6 rolls we put away. He would hold you can't do it. He would hold you can't put any chametz away because any leftover chametz you'd have to burn. And Rameir holds, and since Rameir holds the only way to get rid of chametz is by burning, and therefore he says you cannot. You have to burn. You have to get rid of all the chametz on Erev Shabbos, even though that's a day before the day before Erev Pesach. Okay, the Chachamim Omer Bismano. The Chachamim say no. Even when Erev Pesach falls out on Shabbos, you dispose the chametz on Shabbos. Okay, so that's the way we rule, and that's why on Erev Pesach, when it falls on Shabbos, we set aside the amounts of chametz that we need, and then if there's leftovers, which there invariably is, we dispose of it. We don't have to burn it. We put it in the toilets, whatever it is. We flush it. We have other ways of getting rid of it. Okay, Rab Tzadok about Ben Elazar Omer Truma Melifnei Shabbos. Truma should be gotten rid of before Shabbos. Okay, v'chulin bismano. V'chulin, he agrees to Chachamim. He says regular food you could be. He qualifies. He says truma should not be. You have to get rid of truma before Shabbos. Why? Truma. There are a lot of technicalities and legalities about how to get rid of truma. Truma you can't get rid of the same way you get rid of regular chametz, and therefore he says truma you have to get rid of on Friday because it's going to be too complicated. Something you have to jump through a bunch of hoops on Erev Pesach on Shabbos. You might not get around to disposing it. We don't let you do that. But so truma you have to get rid of on Friday, but all the other chametz you get rid of on Shabbos. Okay? Tanya, we have a brisa. Rabbi Eliezer bar Tzadok Omer Pam Achas Shabbos Abba b'Yavne. 1 year my father spent Shabbos in Yavne. V'chal Arba Asur Lios b'Shabbos, and Erev Pesach the 14th was on Shabbos. Uva Zonin Mimuna Shar Gamliel v'Amar Zunin, who was the appointee. He was the gabbai of Rabbi Gamliel, came and said to us on Shabbos, it's the time to dispose of chametz. Okay, and I follow my father and we dispose of the chametz. So what you see from here is supporting the view of the Chachamim that you are allowed to dispose the chametz on a Pesach on Shabbos itself, not like Rameir who said that all the chametz has to be burnt and destroyed, completely got rid of on Erev Shabbos. Good. End of discussion. Okay, bottom line is, again, we paskin that the ideal, do you want to remind us, the ideal fashion is always to burn the chametz, right? Even so, if Pesach falls on Tuesday, you want to go, on Monday, you're going to go and you want to ideally burn it. We don't ideally put it down the toilet, but if you're stuck, like we are, when, like this past year, when Friday is, when Shabbos, is Erev Pesach, then you are allowed to set aside what you need, and then the leftovers you're allowed to flush down the toilet, like the Chachamim. Okay, now we're talking about situations where a person left their house, and they realized that there's some chametz they left behind. So a person who goes on the 14th, on Erev Pesach, to go to Yerushalayim, to go slaughter his Karban Pesach, v'lamo lesbeno, or he's traveling, he has to go to a mohel, he doesn't have a mohel in his city, and he's traveling to do a bris milah, or he's going to the engagement suda at his father-in-law's house. Okay, this was back in the day. Keep in mind that, nowadays we do the halachic engagement and halachic marriage together under the chuppah. It all happens very, very together. Back in the day, they would do erusin, which is the first step, and then they would wait, and then the Kedushin. So there were feasts, there were different meals around those. Those are called a Sudas mitzvah. You're celebrating the fact that you're doing an actual mitzvah. You're getting married, which is a mitzvah, Puravu, procreation, which is a mitzvah, and therefore those meals were seen as a Sudas mitzvah. And a person is on their way to such a meal, okay, and in any of those cases where a person's on the way to a mitzvah, they all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, I forgot, I left chametz back at home. Okay, if there's enough time for you to turn around, go home, get rid of the chametz, and then go travel, that's Yachshav Yivar. You should do so. But if not, Mivatlo Belibo, you're allowed to do Bittul. Bittul is another way of getting rid of chametz, and normally Chachamim necessitated both, meaning on a regular year, we can't, if you're staying at home for Pesach, you can say, I did Bittul, and I can leave all my chametz around. Can't do that, even though biblically that would work. Bittul means I have no relationship to it, it's not mine, it's nothing. So biblically that would work, but the Chum said, we're afraid. You're going to see chametz in your house, you have chametz sitting around your house, you have to get rid of it as well, okay? we're not talking about selling right now. We'll eventually get to where selling comes from the Gemara. But the point is that normally you have to get rid of it, and you're mavatal, you do bittul for the stuff that you didn't see. But over here in these scenarios, you know for sure, I left a full cake sitting on my kitchen table, right? 100% chametz there. In these cases, because I'm doing a mitzvah, bittul alone, the Chum said, no problem because you're doing a mitzvah. Okay? We have a couple of other similar cases. Latzman Nachrim, person is working, he's a soldier, and he's going to save people from an army, from non-Jews who are attacking. Or from he's a emergency worker, and he's saving people from a flooding river. Listim, or from bandits. Lake, or from a fire. Polis, or from a collapsed building. In all those cases, the person's going to do a mitzvah. He's going to save lives. In all those cases, don't turn around. Go do what you need to do. Don't even calculate turning around. Do bittul on your heart and go take care of these people that you're saving. No problem. Further, the third case, if Elishbo shvisas rishus, let's say a person is going to establish a rest station. What that means is a person, for all of us Erevin people, what this means is that it's Erev Pesach, and let's say Pesach is and the person wants to go beyond the Tchum, so they're traveling now to go put something down for the Tchum. But why? Because on Pesach they want to go travel and visit their best friend. Now that's not a mitzvah. It's very nice. It's not a mitzvah. So if that's such a thing, yachtu miyad. That you have no allowance. That's just doing something for your own personal pleasure. That there you'd have to turn around. Again, it's only for a mitzvah purpose. Another similar case. Let's say a person was in the Beis Hamikdash. They brought a carbon, and then they're traveling back home, and they realize they look in their pocket and like, oh my gosh, I have a piece of meat. I know this doesn't sound so relevant to you and I don't know. You ever see people like in Baltimore? Everyone wraps up the stuff in foil, right? So whatever they wrapped up, they didn't just take a piece of cake from they took a piece of meat and they're in their pocket like, oh my, I have a piece of B'sar Kodesh. You can't eat B'sar Kodesh outside of Yerushalayim. It's aser, right? So in Avad Sofim, we passed by a place called Sofim, okay? Tosfos says that means any place that Sofem actually means to see. If you passed any place where you can no longer see Yerushalayim, Sorfa b'mkoma, you burn it in its place. B'mlav, if you can still see Yerushalayim, Chozer v'Sorfa l'fnei Abir Ma'atzeh Maracha, there's a place called Bira in the Beis Hamikdash compound, and they would use wood from the Mizbech, and they would burn any meat which is pasul would be burnt over there. Once it left Yerushalayim, it's pasul meat, you'd go back and have it burnt in Yerushalayim. Yeah. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Sacrificial meat, meaning meat from a carbon. Thank you. Yeah.
What about stuff that you have to eat in Yerushalayim?
You're saying if you left Yerushalayim, what would you have to do? Yeah. So again, depends on the type of thing, but I think many of them, once you leave Yerushalayim, it becomes invalid. So it would be presumably a same type of halacha. Okay, okay, for how much chametz or for how much meat does the person have to return? In other words, let's say a person left their house like, oh, I forgot a half-eaten cookie. Or I have in my pocket a piece of meat. I look at my pocket and there's like, oh, I see like a sliver of meat sitting in my pocket, right? For how much do you have to return? Rameir Omer, he says in both cases it's an egg volume. Rehuda Omer, in both cases it's an olive volume. When it comes to sacrificial meat, it's even for a kizayas. By chametz, it's an egg volume. Egg is obviously bigger than the olive. The reason they make that distinction is because they point out that since you could do bittul, therefore you have more leniency when it comes to chametz, right? Since bittul is playing a role here as well, you're going to have a little bit more. You're going to do bittul regardless of how much you left behind. Therefore, you have a little bit more flexibility in terms of how much you have to come back for. Okay, those are the three different opinions. Uraminu, ask the Gemara. A bit of a contradiction when it comes to the meal for the engagement meal. We have a brisa which says a person is going to have this engagement meal at their father-in-law's house. That's where it's typically had, or they're going to set up a eruv. You have to return right away. So you see, in this brisa, it puts the engagement meal together with putting down an eruv, right? Which would seem to indicate that an engagement meal is not a mitzvah, right? In our Mishnah, it put engagement meal with the other mitzvah things, and it said putting down the eruv with the non-mitzvah things. Here it puts going back for the engagement meal together with the other mitzvah, with the non-mitzvah things. Rav Yochanan answers, Lo kasha Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi. One opinion is Rabbi Yehuda, meaning the Brisa's opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, which says that engagement meals are not a mitzvah, and our Mishnah is Rabbi Yossi. Titania, as we see in a Brisa, so this eris in Rishus, did Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says that the engagement meal is optional. It's not a mitzvah. Rabbi Yossi Omer, mitzvah. Rabbi Yossi says it's a mitzvah. So we say there's no contradiction. One Brisa is reflecting the view of Rabbi Yehuda. One and the Bryce is reflecting the view of Rabbi Yehuda. The Mishnah is reflecting the view of Rabbi Yossi. As says the Gemara, V'hashtam Rav Chisda. But now that we have the following statements from Rav Chisda, who says like this: Machlokas besuda shnia. That Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi are only arguing about the second meal. Apparently, there was two engagement meals. We like to party, right? Basically, we had a meal when we were engaged, when the person's engaged immediately, and then there was a second stage where the groom would bring gifts to the bride, and they would make another meal. So Rav Chisda says the machlokas between Rav Yehuda, that brisa, the machlokas is about is that meal a mitzvah is not something the first meal. Everyone agrees the first meal is a mitzvah because it's part of getting married. The second thing, the gifts, okay, shkayach, that's where Rav Yehuda says that's not a mitzvah. So says the Gemara, V'hashtam Rav Chisda machlokas b'suda shnia. That when we say that the only argument in that brisa above was about the second meal. Aval b'suda shona is called mitzvah, but regarding the first meal, everyone agree it's a mitzvah. Then afil tema hava ha Rabbi Yehuda, we could even say that the Mishnah and the brisa both follow the view of Rabbi Yehuda. Lokash, no contradiction. We could answer even simpler that the Mishnah which said that engagement meal is a mitzvah is referring to the first meal, and the brisa which said it's not a mitzvah is referring to the second meal, and now it could even all line up with Rabbi Yehuda. Tani of a brisa Rabbi Yehuda, anilo shamati losudos eris and avlos tivlonos. Here we have Rabbi Yehuda expressing what Rabbi Chisda told us in this brisa. He says that I only heard that the first meal is a mitzvah, but not the feast of gifts, which is the second meal. Rav Yossi and Ishamati sudos eris and tivlonos. Rav Yossi says no, I heard that both meals are actually considered part of a mitzvah. Okay, Tanya, Rav Shimon Omer. Now we have a couple of pieces of pretty heavy Agadata. If it is a meal, if you have any meal, any big meal, which is not related to a mitzvah, a scholar should not be attending such a meal. If it's a meal which is just a big festive meal and doesn't have any mitzvah connected to it, it's not a siyum, it's not even a place where there's things zemiros, has no mitzvah, it's just a bunch of people eating. Of course, they're going to brachos bench. A Talmid Chacham is not allowed to benefit from such a meal. What's the example? Okay, Amar of Yochanan, Bas Kohen li Yisrael. For example, a daughter of a Kohen marrying Yisrael. That is something which the Gemara is going to tell us is not ideal. Not ideal. Similarly, a daughter of a Torah scholar, these are unions which are not ideal. Now, the post can point out, they say, although this is something which we try to avoid, if a person recognizes, no, they're going to, let's say a person says, no, I recognize within this spouse there's someone who is the perfect person for me. We don't say you shouldn't get married. It's not like halachically forbidden, but the Gemara does put some emphasis on the family in terms of a scholarly family as well as the Kohanic family. Rav Yochanan says, "Bas Kohen Yisrael. If a daughter of a Kohen marries Yisrael, ein zivugan ola yafe. It's not a good union. It's not a good union." And again, the Gemara the post can qualify. They say there could be exceptions, but basically, it's not a good union. Okay, Maihi. What does it mean? It's not a good union. Amrav Chisda, very harsh. O almana, o grusha, o zera einla. There's going to be either the Kohen's daughter will become a widow, become divorced, or she will not have children. Wow. Masisa Tana, and the Brisa goes even further. Kovra, the husband will end up burying her before her time. Okavarto, or she will bury him. Or they will be impoverished. And he asked the Gemara, we have a Brisa, we have Rav Yochanan telling us that if you want to become wealthy, go marry from the family of the Kohanim. So you see that marrying the Kohanim is actually segula. I don't know what to become wealthy. So the Gemara says, Kolshkin Sharkuna Shartan, because doing so, he's talking to scholars because you'll be both a scholar and a part of the Kahuna, and that will enrich you. So the difference is who's marrying the Kohen. If it's a Talmid Chacham, go marry a Kohen. It's a good idea. If it's Amaretz should not be marrying a Kohen. The Kohanim come from such a strong line that we shouldn't be marrying into them unless we are a Talmid Chacham. Okay? Rav Yeshua Nasiv, now we have a couple of stories that reflect this. Rav Yeshua Nasiv, Kanta Chalash. Rav Yeshua married a Kohenes and he became ill. Amar lo nicha leila Aaron edbak bezari. He says, clearly Aaron, a Kohen, is not pleased that I married into his family. Dalei chasna kiana, that he has a son-in-law like myself, and that's why I'm ill. Wow, strong, right? Rav Idi bar Avin Nasiv Kahanta, Reid bar Avin married a Kohenes, Nafik Minei Trei B'nei Smiche. And what came out? Again, he was a scholar. He married a Kohen, and he had two great rabbis who came from him. Rav Sheshes Breder Rav Idi, Rav Yeshua Breder Rav Idi, two great scholars. Papa Ilo Nesivna Kahanta Lo I Atri. He says, had I not married a Kohenes, I would not become wealthier. Papa was very wealthy. He says, by marrying a Kohen, good things happen to me. Amar Rav Kahana Ilo Nesivna Kahanta Lo Galai. Rav Kahana says the opposite. He says, had I not married a Kohenes, I would not been exiled. Now, where was he exiled? Usually we think of exile going from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. Keep in mind, back in the day, Bavel was the center of Torah. So he actually, some crazy story where there was someone who was trying to report on all the Jewish community to the authorities. Rav Kahana stepped in and got rid of the person. Okay, he killed the guy. And basically he had to run from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, which was he called Galus, because he's being Gola from a Makom Torah, that's called exile. And he says, the reason this happened to me was because I married a Kohanes. Amrulay, they said to him, Velo Makom Torah Galisa, but you were exiled to a place of Torah. Meaning he says, okay, at the end of the day, Eretz Yisrael still had people learning. So he says, Lo Galai Kediglai Inchi. He says, it's true. I ended up in a place there I could still learn, but the manner in which I was forced into exile was not a pleasant one. I was on the run from the authorities. Okay, Amrav Yitzchak, anyone who benefits from an optional feast is eventually exiled. Harsh. We have to, we're in Galus, and therefore to go ahead and to indulge in a massive feast is something which we should avoid. Shneimar, it says, Pasuk says in Amos that you ate fats and sheep of the flock and cows from inside the stall of Siv. Therefore, those of you who indulge too much, you'll be exiled ahead of the exiles. 4985. Any Torah scholar who feasts excessively in any place, sof, listen to this, sof machriv beso. Ultimately, is going to destroy his house. Almanis ishto is going to widow his wife. Afterwards goes love and orphan his young. V'talmudo mishtakach miyemenu, and his learning will be forgotten. Machlokas rabbis baos olav, and much discord will befall him. Udvarav inam nishmaim, no one's going to listen to him. Mechalas shem shmaim, it's a desecration from shem shmaim, shem rabo, and the teacher's name, shem aviv, and his father's name. V'gorim shem ra lo levanav levanav ad sof kol doros, and it's going to have a bad name for him until all generations. Bottom line is, eating excessively is not a good thing. We want to be respectful, eat in a moderate fashion, and recognize the way that we are perceived, and not just to simply indulge. Okay, Mahi. What does it mean that his children will be debased, that they'll be disgraced? They're going to come with nicknames. Karle bar mechem tanuri. They're going to call his son the son of the oven warmer, right? That he's always putting the oven on, right? Okay. Rava Amar bar merakid bar kube, the son of the tavern dancer, because in the taverns they would eat a lot. Rav Papa Amar bar malachik pinche, the son of the plate licker. Rav Shmaya Amar bar mach rava, the son of a folding croucher. Basically, people who ate a lot, they would be so tired and so full, they would just fold up their robes. Okay? You ever see someone has like a bekasha, right? They fold up the robes and kind of go to sleep. The son of the clothing croucher. Bottom line is, we don't, eating, we're not anti-eating, but to do so excessively is not bekavadik, not something respectful, and we should be mindful of the way that we eat. Okay, it's better a person should sell everything he has, to marry the daughter of a Torah scholar. Because even if the person dies or is exiled and unable to raise his children, meaning there's no nurture, because of nature, his sons, being that he married such a family, will be Torah scholars. Don't marry the daughter of an Am Haaretz, because if doing so, the children become Am Haaretz. Sell everything you have to marry the daughter of a Talmid Chacham. Marry off your daughter to a Torah scholar. These words should sound familiar. A famous song that people sing at a wedding. It's like two grapevines. That when they come together, it's fine and acceptable. The way to make better wine, apparently, is you take two grapevines and together they produce even better wine. Don't marry the daughter of Am Haaretz. It's like taking a grapevine and connecting it to the berries of a thorn bush. Davar kar, something which is unseemly, the inam and is unacceptable. It's not good things come from it. Have a great day.